One step forward, two steps back. States like Texas and Florida have been left reeling. Progress towards reopening has been put on pause, with surging infection rates in both states. In Texas, nearly 6,000 new coronavirus cases were recorded on Thursday, prompting the governor to close bars and limit restaurants to 50% capacity. It's a similar story in Florida. 9,000 new cases were reported on Friday, nearly doubling the previous record set only 2 days earlier. Many states are experiencing their highest infection rates since the crisis began. In a sign the spike is being taken seriously by the White House, the coronavirus task force held its first briefing in 2 months.
We stand here today, we believe we've made progress. But as we are reminded, as we see cases rising across the South, that we still have work to do. And so we say to every American, particularly those in counties and in states that are being impacted by rising cases, that now's the time for everybody to continue to do their part.
The Vice President said that more than half of new cases are Americans under the age of 35. That's being complicated by the fact that many are asymptomatic.
You have an individual responsibility to yourself, but you have a societal responsibility, because if we want to end this outbreak, really end it, and then hopefully when a vaccine comes and puts the nail in the coffin, we've got to realize that we are part of the process.
Experts remain concerned over the health versus economy debate, fueled by Trump's insistence the country get back up and running.
Well, let's cross now to DW correspondent Stefan Simons in Washington, D.C. Stefan, we just heard Pence there trying to strike a positive tone about the Trump administration's response, even as the number of cases spikes in several states around the country. But what do they have planned in response?
That's a very good question, but let me first say that this is an administration and a vice president who seemingly lives in a different reality as those numbers are going through the roofs. 40,000 new infectious cases in the United States in 1 day alone. Florida, 9,000 cases, new cases in 1 day, topping their earlier high score of 5,000 new cases. California, Florida, Texas, the most populous 3 states in the United States, ringing the alarm bells. Republican senators, more or less, really urgently looking towards the White House for guidance and for help not to close testing stations, which the White House is now not doing, but which was the plan yesterday. So a lot of experts here saying, really, this is not just a corona crisis for the United States anymore. This is a full-blown public health disaster in the making here. What is the administration doing? The Trump administration managed to come up with a press conference of the task force, which was lying dormant for the last 2 months, while the president and his administration and all the states, most of the states, focused on reopening the country for business.
Well, given the startling numbers we're seeing coming out now, what do people think of the government's handling of this crisis?
Good question. The approval ratings for the president handling this crisis are on a historic low. 40%, the latest poll says, is the approval rating for President Trump. And to my knowledge, was nobody ever lower than this, at least not in current history. So that is, of course, a problem for the president. But he is not leading. He's not saying anything. We haven't heard anything from the president in days on the coronavirus problem the United States has. And so the approval for what he is doing is not even there. Most Americans are now really, really, really afraid. However, having said this, it is Dr. Fauci, America's top health expert, who's begging people literally to wear masks because, and we have experienced this ourselves, you fly into Texas at the airport and almost nobody is wearing a mask, and as if COVID-19 would not exist. This is going to change now.
DW correspondent Stefan Simons in Washington, D.C. Thank you.